Imagine a world where creamy milk flows from thriving pastures, where cows graze amidst wildflowers, and where dairy farming doesn't just feed us but heals the planet. This isn't a utopian dream. It's the promise of biodiversity-based dairy farming, a nature-friendly approach that's gaining traction as humanity grapples with the twin crises of biodiversity loss and climate change. As our global population swells toward 10 billion by mid-century, and the demand for food skyrockets, this innovative farming model offers a lifeline, not just for ecosystems, but for farmers, consumers, and the climate too. Let's dive into this green revolution, explore its magic, and see how countries, including those in the tropics, are embracing it to transform dairy into a force for good. At its heart, biodiversity-based dairy farming is about harmony. Unlike intensive industrial dairy systems that rely on monocultures, heavy chemical inputs, and confined livestock, this approach integrates biodiversity into every step. Picture lush, mixed pastures buzzing with pollinators, hedgerows teeming with birds, and soils alive with microbes, all working together to support healthy cows and high-quality milk. It's a system that mimics nature. Rotational grazing restores grasslands, native plants boost resilience, and reduced reliance on synthetic fertilizers cuts pollution. The result? A dairy farm that's less a factory and more a thriving ecosystem. This model isn't just kinder to the planet, it's smarter. By prioritizing biodiversity, it tackles the root causes of ecosystem degradation while producing food. It's a win-win that addresses the unsustainable pressures of conventional agriculture, which often clears forests, drains wetlands, and pumps out greenhouse gases like there's no tomorrow. Humanity's hunger for resources has pushed nature to the brink. Intensive agriculture, including traditional dairy farming, is a major culprit, responsible for deforestation, soil erosion, and a staggering loss of species. Dairy cows, when packed into feedlots and fed imported soy or corn, churn out methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Add in nitrous oxide from fertilizers and carbon dioxide from land clearing, and you've got a recipe for climate chaos. Meanwhile, the global population keeps growing, and by 2050, we'll need to produce 50% more food without torching what's left of Earth's wild places. Biodiversity-based dairy farming flips the script. It's a solution that regenerates landscapes, slashes emissions, and ensures we can feed the world without wrecking it. Let's explore how it works and where it's taking root. Cows belch methane. It's a fact of life. But in biodiversity-based systems, rotational grazing on diverse pastures can reduce methane output per cow. Healthy soils act as carbon sinks, pulling CO2 from the air, while diverse forage improves digestion, cutting emissions further. Mixed pastures and agroforestry, trees on farms, soak up carbon like sponges. Studies suggest these systems can sequester up to 5 tons of carbon per hectare annually, turning dairy farms into climate allies. By relying on natural soil fertility, boosted by legumes and manure instead of synthetic chemicals, these farms slash nitrous oxide, a gas 300 times more potent than CO2. Diverse ecosystems are tougher. Droughts, floods, and heat waves hit harder in monocultures, but biodiverse farms bounce back faster, ensuring food security as the climate wobbles. With the global population racing toward 10 billion, dairy demand is soaring, especially in emerging economies. Biodiversity-based farming scales up sustainably. It doesn't need vast tracts of cleared land or imported feed, so it preserves forests and wild habitats. Yields might not match industrial megafarms in the short term, but they're more stable over time thanks to healthier soils and ecosystems. Plus, nutrient-rich milk from pasture-fed cows offers a nutritional edge. Think higher omega-3s and antioxidants, feeding both bodies and futures. This green dairy revolution is sprouting worldwide, from temperate meadows to tropical highlands. The Kiwi dairy industry, a global powerhouse, is embracing biodiversity with gusto. Farms here integrate native grasses, wetlands, and tree corridors, cutting emissions and boosting resilience. The government's pasture promise pushes regenerative practices, and Fonterra, a dairy giant, is piloting carbon-neutral farms. Famous for its cheese, this tiny nation is big on innovation. Dutch farmers use strip grazing with flower-rich pastures, reducing fertilizer use by 20% and hosting 30% more bird species. It's a model for high-density regions. In the tropics, Colombia's Andean dairy farms blend cattle with agroforestry. Think coffee bushes and fruit trees alongside pastures. The silvopastoral system slashes methane by 25%, sequesters carbon, and cools the microclimate, a boon in a warming world. With the world's largest dairy herd, India's smallholder farmers are going biodiverse. In states like Kerala, cows graze under coconut groves, while Punjab farmers mix fodder crops with legumes. It's low-cost, scalable, and cuts emissions in a dairy-hungry nation. East Africa's dairy hub is leaning into biodiversity. Small farms near Nairobi pair Napier grass with Desmodium, a nitrogen-fixing plant, boosting milk yields 30% and slashing feed costs, all while soaking up carbon in tropical soils. The Emerald Isle's lush fields are perfect for biodiverse dairy. Farmers here plant multi-species swards, think clover, chicory, and ryegrass, reducing methane and earning carbon credits under EU schemes. Tropical regions face unique challenges: heat, pests, and fragile soils. But biodiversity-based dairy shines here. Silvopastoral systems, blending trees with grazing, cool cows and land alike, cutting heat stress, a milk killer. Diverse forage resists pests naturally, and deep-rooted plants hold soil in monsoon rains. Countries like Colombia, Kenya, and Indonesia prove it's not just a temperate trick. It's a global game changer. This isn't just about cows. It's about people and planet. Biodiverse dairy farms create jobs, from planting hedgerows to monitoring wildlife. They purify water by cutting runoff and nurture pollinators vital for crops. For rural communities, especially in the tropics, they're a lifeline, resilient to climate swings and profitable without big inputs. And for consumers, milk with a story, sustainable, ethical, and delicious. Biodiversity-based dairy farming isn't a silver bullet. It takes investment, training, and policy support to scale. But its potential is dazzling. If rolled out globally, it could cut agriculture's emissions by a third, restore millions of hectares of degraded land, and safeguard species teetering on the edge. Imagine a world where every glass of milk fights climate change and cradles biodiversity. That's not just farming, it's hope in action. So, next time you sip your latte, think of the cows roaming wildflower fields, the carbon sinking into soil, and the tropics thriving. Biodiversity-based dairy isn't just milking cows. It's milking optimism for a greener, tastier tomorrow.